I had my first author event. Hi, I'm Colleen Delaney, and if you are new here, which I'm guessing there's gonna be more than a handful of people who are new here for this video, I am an author and a librarian, and on this YouTube channel, I talk about my books and writing, and then the books I read and love and what I think about them. If you are involved in the romance community, you probably heard about this huge event called From Milwaukee with Love, which took place from September 4th through 6th. It was this big romance book explosion in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, for a long weekend. I was there on September 6th for the Meet Me on North, which was this massive book crawl that took place on North Avenue near the Well Red Damsel and Thirst Books, but were run by the Well Red Damsel. There were 70 authors, I think, total at different shops and the library and all different places. And even some people had tables on the street set up for, I think we were there for 6 hours talking to readers and signing books and selling books. And here is my review of this amazing event. This is an odd thing to say, but I'm filming this the Thursday afterward because I was there all day Saturday. I had a bit of a drive home. I literally got home and couldn't move. My husband had taken our kids out to dinner, and I was heating up a stir fry, not even cooking a stir fry, heating up a stir fry to eat. And I was laying down on the kitchen floor when they walked in, and my husband looked at me and said, "Do you want me to finish cooking your dinner for you?" And I was like, "That would be fantastic, thank you." So I was beat. And then Sunday, I hung out with the kids all day. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I had a lot of random other work I had to do. And so now I'm finally sitting down to talk about this event, and I'm still a little bit on a high from it. It was unreal. So let me start by saying what my expectations were going into this event and then how they were met, exceeded, whatever. If you've followed me for a while, I talk about how I worked for a bookstore for a long time in my 20s, and I worked for a bookstore that did a ton of author events. If you're if you were in the indie bookstore scene in the early 2000s, 2000 to 2010, if I said the name of my bookstore, you would probably recognize it. It was pretty nationally known, which is why I don't talk about it. I try to keep a shred of privacy on the internet. So I've worked hundreds of author events. Also, when I worked at the store, I worked 4 nights a week, and most of our events were at night. So a lot of weeks I worked 4 events in a week. I also did a ton of events where I would bring authors to schools and got to meet some cool authors. I got to spend the day with Rick Riordan one year, because when The Sea of Monsters came out, I took him to a bunch of different schools one day and then had a signing at our store. So I've done so many author events. So I went into this event with really low expectations. I'm not well known. I'm not. There are people who know who I am, have read my books, but I'm not well known. I don't have thousands of reviews on Goodreads or Amazon. As you can tell by the subscriber number on this channel, I don't have a huge YouTube following. I'm kind of a quiet little author. So while I'm driving my car to Milwaukee that morning, was really telling myself, it's going to be a good day if you sell 3 books. I kept saying that. It's going to be a good day if you sell 3 books. It's going to be a good day if you talk to 3 people. So I said that over and over again. Just keep that in mind. And granted, I was going to be there for 6 hours. So I was thinking, this is going to be what it is. I have this wonderful group of writing friends who I talked to a lot beforehand about it. And I said, you know what, I'm going to look at it as no matter what, it's going to be a learning experience. So even if it ends up being, I lose money, because I did order some stuff to give out to people, which I'll talk about. And I thought to myself, even if I lose money, it's okay, because 1, it's my first event. 2, it's my first time ever being involved in something like this, some huge romance event. And 3, I didn't have to buy a plane ticket or a train ticket. So that was huge. The fact that I could just drive my minivan to Wisconsin and that was a really big part of it, that I thought it's not I'm going to be out, $700 or whatever, because I'm flying to Seattle. Or, I guess it's probably not $700 to fly to Seattle. It's probably $500 to fly to Seattle, but still a lot of money. So I was just focusing on that. I brought extra books just in case. I brought not many extra books. I think 25 extra books total of The Hedge Witch and Bewitching Rosemary, just in case, because the Well Red Damsel was selling my books and I was in a shop right next door. So I thought anybody that comes in, I can just say, hey, just pop over next door, buy a copy of my book, and pop right back, and I'll sign it for you. No problem. Oh my word. So not only did the Well Red Damsel completely sell out of all of the books they purchased of mine for the event, which was a lot. I don't know exactly how many. Obviously, I'm not like in their books, but I saw, like, I took a picture before the event started of the huge stack they had, and then other readers were telling me they ran out of the stack, but they got more out of the back, so I have no idea how many were there. But I also sold out of every extra book I brought. Just people were like, I'll give you cash. They're sold out, I'll give you cash. And I was like, okay. And so that feeling, I texted my husband at, I think, 2:00, maybe 2:30. So we had like an hour and a half left of the event. And I said, I'm going to sell out of what I brought. And they sold out next door. Like, what is happening? He was like, that's amazing. I also brought, and I'm going to put pictures up because I don't have any of these left over. I brought bookmarks about hauntings and house witchery because that's my book that's coming out in, I don't even know how many days it is. I have no idea what today's date is. I think it comes out in 12 days. It comes out in under 2 weeks. So I brought bookmarks so people who bought the first two could remember this one was coming out. I brought postcards of the whole series of the Witches of Star Island, and I brought postcards of the Wolves of Luven. So I think all together I had about 400 to 500 pieces of paper people could take. These are all that's left. And honestly, these are all Wolves of Luven postcards with my QR code on the back. And I didn't put these out for the first 2 hours until someone told me they loved shifters. And I was like, oh, I should get these out because I was feeling kind of weird. These are ebook only. And I was at like, a physical book sale. And so I felt kind of weird pitching my ebook only book, especially since like the Well Red Damsel was selling my books. I didn't want to like take away from them. But then at one point I was just like, people are asking for shifter books. I'm just gonna put these out. And I think I have about, let's just count. I have 21 left and I had 100 of these. So I got 79 of these. So I had, all my stuff was taken, which was amazing. I also brought like Halloween decorations, which a lot of people commented on, which was perfect because it worked out really well for the time period of this event, for my subject matter. I write books about witches on an island in the North Atlantic. So it's very seasonal for September and October. And so I put Halloween decor out, which a lot of readers commented how much they loved it. I also brought both Oracle and Tarot cards, thinking that if it was slow, if I was chatting with someone for a long time, I could let them pick an Oracle card or a Tarot card or whatever. It was so busy. So I only used the cards a handful of times when either a few times a kid came through with their parent. And so I was like, do you want my Oracle card deck? Did I bring that in here? I can show you which one I brought. Is this one, the Green Witch Oracle. And it's very like kid friendly. I have kids. They like picking cards. And so a couple times if a kid walked by, I was like, do you want to pick a card and see what it says? And they would pick one and look at it and I'd read it to them. And then a couple times, ooh, lavender. A couple times I feel like to you that means nothing. I'm currently working on Lavender's book in the Witches of Star Island series. That's why I was like, oh, Lavender. And then a few people said to me, oh, can I pick an Oracle card? And I was like, sure. And then at the end, from about 3:30 to 4 o'clock, the end of the crawl, I was quiet. And so I did do one tarot card reading. But other than that, it was almost like too busy. But I am glad I brought them because the 30 minutes before we started, and probably even the first 15 minutes of the event, I was really worried that no one was gonna come. And I was like shuffling them and playing with them. And it was kind of just like a nice thing. I didn't bring anyone with me. So the other person who I shared the space with, Krista Dearson, who was amazing and so nice. And it was so fun to like get to talk to another author. She writes contemporary romance. She brought a friend. And I was like, oh, I should have brought a friend. But it's a big commitment to ask a friend. She's a local to Milwaukee author. So she was really just asking her friend, to drive 15 minutes or whatever and spend the day with her. Whereas for me, it would be like, hi, will you cross state lines and spend the day with me in Wisconsin? So I didn't ask a friend, but in the future, I probably will. I think that would have been a good idea. But I brought these mainly because I was thinking to myself, like, oh, what if I'm so bored? I also brought my notebook thinking that if I did get really bored, I could outline some future projects that I'm thinking about working on and like come up with character names and like random stuff like that. Obviously, I did not have to do any of that because it was literally like there was a line out the door at times just talking to people, and not everybody was there to buy the book. A lot of people just wanted to say hi to every author and see what you had. And the way we had it set up was that like you walked in the door, you came past my table, you went down this area, you went by Krista's table, and then you went out. So it was like a big circle in the store, which I should tell you where we were. We were at Creative Fire, which is this beautiful pottery store that's right next door to the Well Red Damsel. If you're in Milwaukee and you need pottery, like any ceramics, not just like bowls or whatever, they had beautiful stuff there. Overall, the event was just like amazing. Like I don't even know how to explain how amazing I felt. I felt amazing. And I met some people who follow me on YouTube, which was really cool. So hi. Thanks for coming and saying hi. I really appreciate it. Now, of course, because I am an author and I am a Virgo rising, I of course had to, on Sunday, or even maybe Monday it was that I finally did it, I made a list of all the things that I would do differently the next time I went to an event. Because there were a few things I would do differently. Number one, I would have loved to have brought my husband because there's a lot of heavy lifting and I have a bad back. And I was really worried that I was gonna throw my back out carrying the stuff in the morning. I didn't really care as much like packing up, and also because I sold a lot of my books. So I wasn't like carrying my heavy books back. I was literally carrying empty cardboard boxes, but like my table was really heavy, so I do wish that I had brought my husband. And thinking back on it, it probably wouldn't have been a terrible idea to have him just come in the morning to set up, and then I could break it all down by myself. So I have him just come in the morning, help me set up, and then leave. Because Milwaukee's far, but it's not like insanely far. I mean, he probably wouldn't have wanted to do it now that I think about it. Maybe if there's one that's closer to us, I'll have him do that with me. Also, if I'm at another event in which I end up selling a lot of books, I will need to bring another person because that was a little bit chaotic once they sold out at the Well Red Damsel and I started actually selling books. I was getting overwhelmed quickly because I'm not great at mental math. And so, which is ridiculous because I used to be amazing at mental math. I worked in retail for years, but I wish I had someone there to help with me with sales, just like that portion of it. Now let's move into my new plan. I literally have this enormous, how many pages is it? It's only 3 pages, but 3-page document of everything I would change on my side. I thought the Well Red Damsel did amazing. I would 100% do another event with them. They're doing this next year. I'm sure there'll be so many more applications. Hopefully I will be able to come again. I already have it in my calendar, so I'm not planning anything for that weekend. And I loved them so much that honestly, I am going to reach out and see if I can do a event with them outside of this because I just had such a phenomenal time. Now, from now on, if the bookstore is stocking my books, I am going to bring between 40 and 75 extra copies of The Hedge Witch, depending on the size of the event. I brought 15 extra copies of The Hedge Witch, I think. And it wasn't enough, honestly, because like the last hour when I had, or no, not the last hour, the last 2 hours, I think I had 2 copies of The Hedge Witch and 2 copies of Bewitching Rosemary left. And a lot of people were like, well, I don't want to buy your last copies. And I was like, someone has to, you can buy them. So I do think if I had had more, I would have sold more. And that's just how that works. Also, same thing, if bookstore is supplying, bring 30 to 50 extra copies of Bewitching Rosemary because I did sell a lot of Bewitching Rosemary to people because in my opinion, you don't have to read those 2 books in order. You can read Bewitching Rosemary first. Like if you really want to read a book with a pink cover, or if you love the idea of a garden witch rather than like a tarot card reading witch, you can totally start with that book. But there are people, which I understand, who want to read the first book in the series first. So I would bring more copies of The Hedge Witch and still more copies of Bewitching Rosemary, but just not as many. And then I added Hauntings and House Witchery because it is coming out in less than 2 weeks to do the same thing, 30 to 40 extra copies, depending on the event size. Now, depending on when I go to another event, I've got Warlocks Get Wit. I accidentally just did a title reveal of the 4th book. The 4th book of the Witch of Star Island is coming out in March. I mean, it's weird. I haven't done an official title release, but my publishing company like released the pre-order on Amazon, so you can just like go look my name up on Amazon and it comes up. But I want to wait until after Hauntings and House Witchery comes out to do like here's the title and here's the gorgeous cover, which I also have. And yeah. So that's coming out very end of March, I think March 31st. And then next September, the final book, which I have a title for, but my publishing company hasn't approved yet, is coming out. So depending on when these events happen, I will obviously add rows for how many of those copies I should bring extra when events are, when they're being supplied by the bookstore. If this is an event I'm doing that's not a bookstore supplies your books, I will look at how many people are attending and go from there. But I do think I am going to start building a sort of collection of the books in my house that I have the ability to bring. Okay, so now let's move on. Here's my biggest thing. Oh my gosh, for the last year, I've been really dragging my feet about making paperback versions of the Wolves of Luven books. I always kind of envisioned those to be ebook only books because they're like 150-ish pages. I think one of them is 180. I think Waiting for His Mate, the second one, is 180. But they're not long. They're all under 200 pages. So that's a skinny book. Hold on. So this book is 170 pages. It's one of my books I wrote as Lucy Hudson, Something Wicked. So this is how thin it is. But here's the thing that kind of bothered me is I don't love how spread out the text is. I've considered doing, I'm not gonna be able to get that back in, a mass markety size so that they'd be a little thicker, the text would be a little bit closer together, and I need to do that. So my big thing is I wish I had done that. I wish I also had those books for sale. I just have been dragging my feet, but I thought to myself, I'm really at this like big push at the end of The Witches of Star Island right now. I'm doing a huge revision on the last book right now, and after I finish that revision, I still have edits. I'm like doing developmental edits for book 4 right now. I'll still have copy edits for book 4. I'll still have proofs. And also I'll still have developmental edits, copy edits, proofs for book 5. But that series will start to feel like it's closing to me. And I am very undecided on what the next project I'm going to work on is. There's a couple huge projects I have in mind that I'm kind of thinking like maybe I give myself 6 months to work on some little stuff, to work on some little novellas. Like I have all these little witchy novellas that are kind of similar to The Forest Witch that I was like, oh, I kind of want to write those. And I think that for 6 months, I'm going to let myself work on little novella projects, but that's also a good time to finally get these paperbacks set up, because I really do wish that I had, even if I had brought like 10 copies of Finding His Mate and like 3 copies of each of the rest of the series, I think I would have sold some. You know, I learned a lot from watching other people's like TikToks and reels of this event. I took almost no pictures because I was by myself, but a lot of people did bring assistants or friends or spouses who were taking videos and pictures. And so I got to see a lot of other people's tables. And there were a lot of novellas being sold. So that kind of gave me like the confidence to sell these as novellas. I sort of wish I had had a tiny little mass markety copy of The Forest Witch. It's 50 pages. It's super short, but I feel like it would be an adorable little, probably this size. Let me grab a book that would be comparable. It would just be like about this size. This is a collection of Emily Dickinson's poetry. This is 78 pages long, so it would be a little bit shorter than this. But honestly, I could probably put like a sneak peek of the Hedge Witch in the back, and then it would be this size. And I thought, oh, I wish I had had that, especially because of the time of year it was. Now, I might not have felt that way if I'm doing an event in March when people aren't like, witches, but I did feel that way doing an event in September. So another thing I should just create. And here's the thing, that's all kind of passive income for me. I put those for sale online. Who cares if I sell 2 a year? That's 2 more than I would have sold if they weren't there. Okay, also something I was really mad at myself. So I used to write contemporary romance under Lucy Hudson. I only made 1 paperback for that series, and I think that was a good plan. I sold okay. I sold okay as Lucy Hudson. I earned out on 5 of the 7 books that I wrote as Lucy Hudson. I will probably earn out on a 6th one in the next few years. It's a hard thing when you write seasonal stories, they don't sell all year round. But one of them I did price as like a loss leader for people to kind of like get introduced to me, and it did not work, which is fine. I just picked the wrong, I could do a whole video on everything I did wrong as Lucy Hudson, but it was a good learning experience. But I have like 3 copies of this book, which is a cozy autumnal contemporary romance that's like sweet and spicy. And I was kicking myself I didn't bring it. I would have sold them. I should have just had a pile of them sitting on my table, and I probably would have sold them. Honestly, if I brought more, I probably would have sold more, but I didn't really want to like buy more just in case I didn't. But I have a couple of them. I should have brought them. So on my list of next things to do is, of course, if I am going to an event that is in August, September, or October, to bring 10 copies of this. And hey, if I don't sell them, it's fine. Now, that's all my book review. Let's go on to my next thing. Now, the rest of this is going to be a little bit more like to the particular event. This would be my recommendations for anyone who's doing a large event like this. You probably don't need as much stuff if you're doing like a regular author event where you're the only author, but I should have brought more bookmarks. Bookmarks were extremely popular. I didn't bring that many bookmarks because the program or company or whatever that I used, bookmarks were way more expensive than postcards. And so I only brought 50 bookmarks, whereas I brought 350 or 400 postcards. So I would bring more bookmarks, but I would probably try to find someplace where it was less expensive to print bookmarks, just because I don't want to spend a ton of money in case no one wants them. But like almost every person who walked by grabbed a bookmark, which I know that's not going to translate into a sale for every single person, but some of them will. So some of them will. So I wish I had more bookmarks. And I wish I had brought twice as many Witches of Star Island postcards, because I did get out of those pretty fast. I also wish I had brought maybe twice as many of the Wolves of Luven postcard, but put them out as soon as it started, because I got through, how many did I say? 79 out of 100. So I had some left, but at the end there were people taking the Wolves of Luven postcard who were more interested in the Witches of Star Island because the QR code was on the back. And that I feel like is a harder translation, because you look at that when you get home, you've met 70 authors, it's 4 days later, and you're like, why did I take this shifter postcard? Maybe I was just being nice to the author. You don't remember that I also write witchy books. Okay, so that would be my only caveat on that. My setup, my table. Here's what I think I should have done. And I thought about doing this, and if you follow me on Threads, you saw that I made a mistake and posted something asking for an artist who does character design, and then I literally got bombarded with messages for days, and some people were very kind and some people were not kind. And I always think it's like one of those weird things, like if someone says like, oh, thanks for reaching out, I already found someone, the worst thing you can do is be like, well, why didn't you pick me? It's like, okay, cool it. Like, I don't want to get into it with you, especially if I said, I've gotten hundreds of DMs. I didn't pick you because it was a numbers game. I do wish I had a larger poster with one character art. So I do think that is an investment I will make before I do the next something like this. So not necessarily if I do just a one-off event at a romance bookstore where it's just me and I'm signing books after a book release. But I think before next year's From Milwaukee with Love, I will commission character art and make a piece of character art that's kind of large. And honestly, maybe print some out as postcards to sell, because why not? I wish I had multiple QR codes. I brought this, okay? For people who didn't want to take a postcard, whatever. Some people just walked in off the street, so you could just scan your QR code and then you'd have, this takes you to the page on my website where I have all my books listed. So it's like buy my book here. So I can replace the links. Like when I have a universal link, when I have a link that's specifically for Kindle Unlimited, I can kind of replace those links as I go. And so I wish I had had a QR code that was just for signing up for my newsletter, so I could have pushed my newsletter a little more. I did get some newsletter signups, but probably like 5, not a ton. So I wish I had had a specific QR code for signing up for my newsletter. I'll talk about that later. I wish I had had one for buying books, which was that one. And I wish I had actually also had one for my YouTube channel to kind of push my YouTube channel while I was there. Like, hey, you're not sure if you want to buy these books? Cool, follow me on YouTube. And then maybe in a year, you're going to decide you actually do want to buy these books. Just stuff like that. The big changes I would make is if I go to another big event like that and I have the Wolves of Luven and the Forest Witch and Something Wicked, I need to be set up to take electronic payment, which I was not. I was only set up to take cash, which was hard for some people because not everybody had cash. So I do need to figure that out somehow. I don't personally love using electronic payment. Like, I don't use Venmo. I don't have like Apple Pay or anything like that. I do have a PayPal, so I would need to set that all up so people could pay me that way. I also would probably give people a discount for using cash because I think that's easier. And I would 100% need someone to work as like a cashier, to be in charge of all that. So hopefully my husband, he's very good with numbers. I also would in the future give people deals. Let's say I'm selling the Wolves of Luven and you're gonna buy all 5. You're gonna buy all 5, you're gonna get 10% off. You're gonna buy 3, you're gonna get 5% off, like something like that, just to make people like wanna buy the whole series because they're getting a better deal. And the last thing is kind of an interesting thing that I never even thought of, but Krista, the other author in my store, she had a game, which was so smart. And if you wanted to play the game, you had to sign up for her newsletter or follow her on Instagram or something like that. And that's why I said the thing about having a QR code for my newsletter. Like, you want to play the game, sign up for my newsletter, show me you did, let's play the game, and then cute prizes. She had super cute prizes, which I loved, and one of them was gently used romance novels that she wrapped up and like wrote the descriptions on. So you couldn't like pick which one you wanted, but you could read the description and decide which one you wanted. If you won that, that was like the #1 prize you could win. But then there were like cute pens and like stickers and stuff like that. And I was like, that was such a good idea because so many people, A, are gonna remember that she did that because it was adorable. B, are either gonna go home with like a cute pen or a sticker or a book, and you get people to sign up for your newsletter, follow you on Instagram, all that stuff, which was really cool. And those are all my notes, which I hope if you're an author watching this, you found them somewhat helpful. I feel like I'm such a baby author still, even though I've technically been publishing for a few years now, but I still feel like I'm just like learning everything. You know, there were authors at this event who had their big posters and their 400 books and their character art and their all different kinds of pens to sign with. That's another thing. I wish I had brought more varied pens because a lot of people wanted me to sign their canvas bags or t-shirts or stuff like that. And I only had like very fine tip Sharpies. I wish I had brought some fat Sharpies. I wish I had brought just more signing material. Also, I really wish I had brought a silver Sharpie because there were people who wanted me to sign stuff that was black and I only had black pens. So just stuff like that. But I would say overall, I would give this event an A+. It went so much better than I thought it would. I literally was driving home like on cloud 9. I was exhausted and I was starving, but I was on cloud 9. It was one of those events which I had to walk away from a line to use the bathroom. At one point, I was like, I'm so sorry. I have to use the bathroom. And our lovely volunteers named Lydia, who was in our shop, was phenomenal. And she watched my table for me while I went to the bathroom. And it was just one of those events. The one woman who owns Creative Fire was hilarious. She was kind of standing in the back. The back of the shop is like her work area. And that's where the bathroom was. And so I come like, it's like 11:45. It was almost lunchtime-ish. And I'm like running to go to the bathroom. And she's like, hurry, hurry, hurry. I was like, I know, I have a line. I have to hurry as fast as I can. Go to the bathroom, run back out. And so it was just amazing. I cannot say enough good things about it. If you are in Milwaukee, first of all, go to the Well Red Damsel and say hi to Natasha because or someone who's working at the time if she's not there, but she's the owner, because that shop is wonderful. And the fact that she put this together, she opened in July and put together an event that was visited by 2,000 people I think she did it in 1 month. That's unreal. And I was trying to think of how many people I talked to. And honestly, I don't know. It was too hard to keep track. It was like at the beginning when I was a little quiet for the first like 30-ish minutes, I had like in my notebook, like person bought book, person said they were buying book, person took postcards, like within 45 minutes, I could not do any of that. So I talked to probably between 500 and 1,000 people, I think. I'm not sure though. I have no idea. It was amazing. It was amazing. In the description today, I'm going to put a link to the Well Red Damsel. She's on bookshop.org also. If you're going to order any of my books and you want to, in paperback, and you want to support an indie bookseller, please buy through her because she's amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you for watching this video. I hope if you're an author, it gave you some idea of what an event like this looks like. If you're a newbie baby like me, I hope if you are a reader and you're just curious what it's like, you enjoyed finding out what this was like. I hope if you're a random romance bookstore in anywhere in the United States, this makes you think, you know what, I should try and do this. Honestly, I'm following all the romance bookstores that are within drivable distance to me, because you better believe I'm going to apply to go to every single one of these, because it was amazing. As always, I hope you're in the middle of a good book, about to start reading a good book, or about to start writing a great book. I'll see you soon.